Well, it's 7:30, so I'll call the meeting of the Police and Fire Commission to order. Roll call's been taken?
Yes.
Okay. Approval of the minutes of the March 3rd, 19. I hate 7:30 in the morning, I just don't do well. 2016 regular meeting, motion to approve?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any corrections or changes to the minutes of that meeting? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the fire department bills.
I'd like to ask if we could move
Oh, I'm sorry.
agenda
Excuse
item
me.
9.
You asked me that before, and I said yes, and now I forgot already. We're going to move item 9 on the agenda up ahead of approval of the fire department bills. Would you want to introduce the issue?
Yes. I've asked, Eric Jonas approached me to bring to you the request to solicit businesses for donations to be used for fire prevention activities. Eric is taking over that program, so I'm going to have him make his pitch to you.
Well, good morning, and thank you for allowing me to be moved up. I can't see all of you. Would you like me to stand? I'm Eric.
You can stand up and
All right.
now we can see you.
Feeling underdressed this morning. I apologize, but this is what I slept in last night, so thanks. As Chief said, I just recently, yeah. I just recently took over the fire prevention program. We're making some sweeping changes towards the program. If you haven't heard, the clowns are retired, so we're going a different direction. Another thing I'd like to change is how soon we start soliciting for donations for this program. I believe the 5 months that I'm asking for will give the local businesses a chance to give better donations as we're trying to up our excitement for the program. So that's what I'm here today for, is to ask your permission to start soliciting for those donations for the fire prevention program that will benefit the kids of this community.
Can you tell me how much generally you raise in a year?
As far as funds, that would be a better question for Ed. What we normally look for are prizes. So in the past, we've had Wisconsin Delt tickets, we've had airplane rides, we've had bikes, other things like that for kids to win from our prizes. And the contests are usually creating a fire prevention poster or an exit plan that promote their fire safety for their entire family. So as far as a monetary fund, I don't get to see the budget as much as Ed does.
Yeah, so some of those tickets are in kind.
That's
That's
correct.
fine, I just wanted to
Yep.
clarify that.
And this year, like I said, we're gonna be shooting for the moon and maybe settling for the sun with the prizes. I'd like to have some bigger prizes, but I think giving the local businesses a chance to maybe come up with some better prizes, a better time frame to do so, will increase our chances of receiving those prizes. That's why I'm asking for the 5 months in advance.
Any other questions or comments? I presume we have to vote on this, do we? It's a request to do something, yeah. But we don't need to do a roll call. Is there a second? Thank you. Any comments or questions or discussions about the motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I would argue about all of the clowns being retired
from the fire department, but that's for a different time.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good day, ladies.
Thank you, Aaron. Is there more than one in here?
No, he was kind of making a reference just to the left of Scott there.
I see.
To the right of Scott there.
That's fine, that's fine. Okay. I'm glad to know the relationship's positive. Approval of the fire department bills. Chief?
Yep, you have 2 sets of bills in front of you with Commissioners Mueller and Myers, each approving one of them. There's nothing really per se in there of any great importance that wasn't already budgeted for, but I'll be glad to answer any questions you have and request that you approve them as presented.
Second? Thank you. Any questions for the chief about the department bills? Hearing none, we need a roll call vote. Gershman.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Meyer. Yes. Keo, yes. The motion carries. Approval of the police department bills.
Yes, good morning. You have two sets of bills in front of you. One signed on the 2nd of March, one signed on the 22nd of March. A couple things I'd like to bring to your attention. On 5F, there was a larger amount paid out to the Police Executive Research Forum. It's a training, an executive training that we had budgeted for myself to attend in July into August in Boston. So that was paid for in advance. There's also the police department's police auxiliary program. We have a recognition banquet annually for them, and we cover the cost of them and their guest or spouse to attend. We had that dinner out at River Edge, and it was very appreciated by auxiliary. It's really the only formal recognition that we have for them annually, but it was well attended and appreciated. On 5J, there is a charge for catering. We are hosting, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in the activities report, but we're hosting a 3-week training over the course of March, April, and May down at Wildwood Pavilion for 38 officers from around the state. And we partnered with Slice of Heaven Catering in town here to cater all the days breakfast and lunches that we're providing. So we're being paid back from the state that money, but that was the initial cost of catering for the first week of training. A couple other things. There was 2 new video camera systems, watch guard systems for our police squads that was budgeted for and approved on 5.0. And lastly, on 5K, just to jump back a little bit, we had purchased, it was a small purchase, but we had purchased a 10-foot backdrop that highlights Marshfield Police Department, just our patch and our emblem. We purchased that for, it was a suggestion by Dennis Keffer, one of our sergeants, just so we have a formal backdrop for any press conferences we may have. We've also used it for a couple of the educational or informative videos that we've been producing with MCTV, just to inform the community of certain rules of the road and maybe better educating the community. So just to make it more of a professional setting, we thought that backdrop would be good. So it was a purchase that we had made in March as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, look for your approval on those bills.
Questions for the chief? Second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Gershman.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
Meyer. Keo, yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Fire department activities, training reports, and correspondence.
Yeah, it was a busy month again. Couple things to bring forward. There's some small things, but I think they're important. Page 6A, we sent 2 of our personnel to Lincoln Elementary School, the 3rd and 4th graders, to do their annual Read Across America event. Those type of things are really well received by the kids, and it takes very little department personnel's time to do, but I think it makes a big impact to the kids and to the public as well. On page 6.0, we finally got the check from Enbridge, which is the $1,000 towards the tactical helmets for our rescue task force that we had talked about when we got the pickup truck. And page 6.P, it's a small check of $25, but it's from a gentleman who would bring his grandchildren here. And this last time he came there, he was so impressed with the way every one of those tours had gone and with the knowledge and the way the department personnel interacted with him and his grandchildren as well, that he felt that he wanted to give a donation for that. Even though we tried to turn him away from that, he still went ahead and did that. So it's a nice approval for what the guys do, guys and gals, when they do have these people showing up.
Did I just understand you to say you had encouraged someone not to give you money?
Yes. I don't want them to feel that it's required as part of that.
I see, okay.
It was a gentle.
Any comments or questions about the fire department's reports? Hearing none, thank you. Do we need a motion for that? We don't need a motion for that, no. Next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the resignation of firefighter paramedic Eric Lang.
Yes, Eric Lang was offered a position as a battalion chief at the South Area Fire and Emergency Response District, otherwise known as SAFER, which is the old Rib Mountain and Weston Fire Departments, which were merged. The page 7A has his resignation letter. It's with really great reluctance that I ask that you accept his resignation letter. He's been with us for 10 years, starting in 2005. And he's been a great asset, and it's been fun to watch this young man develop over the years. But now he's moved on to a new challenge in his life, and so with great reluctance, I ask that you accept his resignation as presented.
Motion to accept the resignation?
Approve with regret.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions of the chief? Hearing none, it's a roll call vote. Gershman?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Franklin?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Keo? Yes. Motion carries. Now there's an associated item that follows.
Yes. Now with an opening up on the department, I ask for your approval for me to go ahead and work toward filling that position of a firefighter paramedic. Just so you're aware of where our process is at this moment, we run our process through Chippewa Valley Technical College. They will be testing the applicants that have already been approved at the end of April, and we should be receiving by May 13th or 14th a listing of all those qualified candidates who have passed. From them, I will make a select group of candidates to interview, and we will be having our interviews on May 24th. And so that's the date that we will get a group together, and I'd like to invite any of the commissioners that would like to participate, that you're more than welcome to join us. We'd love to have you.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the hiring of a replacement firefighter paramedic.
So.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for the chief? Okay, hearing none, call a question. Gershman?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Franklin?
Yes.
Meyer? Keel? Yes. Motion carries. Police Department, activities, training reports, and correspondence. Chief Gramson.
Yes. Like I had mentioned earlier, we're hosting that 3-week LPO course, Leadership in Police Organizations course down at Wildwood Pavilion, attended by 38 officers and other support staff from throughout the state. It was well received that first week. Many are staying at local hotels. Some are commuting, but it's a very worthwhile course. I was through it probably about 6 years ago, and it was very it was very good with career development and leadership throughout the profession. A couple of other things on March 9th as well as March 30th. We had a couple more presentations at the high school. We're doing our Student Citizens Academy through the high school, and that's to the criminal justice courses. That's well received. We have a couple more coming up. I have a final presentation there coming up in about a month, but we also have the DA coming up to present to the classes, as well as somebody from probation and parole talking about what happens after conviction or upon conviction of a crime in the profession. We hosted some field training officer interviews at the police department on the 14th of March. We had two openings for field training officers. The individuals, it was a competitive group. The individuals that were selected were Caleb Bornbach and Chris Berg. They're officers who have been with our organization for about 10 years and will do well as training officers. We took part in a ODC employer appreciation banquet on the 18th of March. That was attended by ordinance officers Bob Larson and Dan Leonard. They work hand in hand with an individual from ODC named Josh, who's our parking enforcement officer. And this was just an appreciation banquet from ODC to all those businesses or entities in the community that support them. On that same day, on the 18th of March, we humbly were beat by a Special Olympics basketball team. That evening, we had a fundraiser for Special Olympics, and they took it to us once again. But it was fun. I'd like to throw it out there that I wasn't in attendance because I was out of town. So it might have been worse had I been there. So I was told that that there's hopes that I'll be there next year, and I think I'll be able to make it. But one of the nice things with that is our police association matches whatever donations are given by the community, or actually this time I think it was for each point scored. I think the police association donated, I think, $5. So based on that, I mean, I don't remember what the check was cut for, but our professional police association cut a check to the Special Olympics. It was a pretty substantial amount. It was definitely 4 figures. And then lastly, I've been working with a couple of area high schools outside of Marshfield because they're trying to, I guess, start the Parents Who Host Lose the Most campaigns, and as well as pass a social hosting ordinance similar to what we have in this community. And it's driven by the kids in some area schools. So I actually presented out at Loyal Town Hall on the 30th of March to kids from Neilsville, Loyal, and Greenwood. There's some kids from Colby and Owen Withy that weren't able to be in attendance, but they're trying to collectively, for Clark County schools, get enough kids involved in Parents Who Host Lose the Most campaign, which frowns upon supplying alcohol to kids during graduation and prom and homecoming and those other activities. But then also pass a social hosting ordinance so that if there would be a party that was where alcohol or a place to party was supplied by an adult, that they could receive a ticket that's above and beyond what a carrying alcohol or supplying alcohol ticket would be. It's nice to see a initiative like that driven by the younger generation and not just us as adults saying we believe that this is in the children's best interest. This is actually them stepping up and believing that they need to start making some changes as well. So I was happy to present to them. And then lastly, I just want to recognize our ordinance officer, Dan Leonard, has really put on, he puts on a good presentation. He does really good with dog bite prevention, with some presentations on how to select the correct pet or select a dog for those teenagers who are looking at maybe, moving out and having their own pets and such. So he's always putting on a lot of presentations. This month alone, I think there was 4 different presentations that he had put on, one to ODC as far as dog bite prevention, one to the child care centers in Marshfield, daycare centers for dog bite prevention, and teaching kids and those with special needs how to just be careful around some animals. He also presented at Sunrise Rotary this past month, and the one I had mentioned at Marshfield High School for the Student Citizens Academy. But he's a wealth of information when it comes to pets and especially dogs, but it would definitely, we'd be steps backwards if we didn't have him doing what he does. So it's very much appreciated, and I hope the community appreciates it as much too with his information that he's sharing. I look for your approval on those, or acceptance for those activities.
Comments or questions for the chief? Hearing none, thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Crime reports, anything to point out that is?
Not a lot. The only thing on 11E, I'll just point out that you compare, that's our drug report, and if you compare on 11E, the writing might be a little small, but the top line on each graph is just drug sale, manufacture, and possession, just kind of a generalized category, but you can see that things aren't slowing down by any means. We had 37 arrests in 2015, January 1st through March 31st. This year we had 60 arrests. It's just the drug problem in our community or any community really throughout the state or nation is not slowing down. It's just increasing. It just goes to show you that at some point our COPS grant that afforded us that 40th officer so that we could have a second drug officer, that'll be expiring at some point, and there'll be the decision that'll need to be made if we'll need to maintain that 40th officer and keep 2 drug officers in their roles at the police department. I would definitely support it. I think the numbers aren't slowing down. I have no problem admitting that our drug officers are probably the most busy and overworked employees of our department. They probably discard or throw away more tips that they receive than they're able to actually act on, and that's just because of a volume standpoint. And you can see by this, I mean, again, things aren't slowing down, things are busy, and it's definitely, once that the grant is done being funded at the end of this year, then we have to have 1 year of self-sustaining, which would be 2017. And then after that, we would have to make the decision, do we continue, maintaining that 40th officer so that we can have 2 drug officers working in that investigative area? Or do we go back down to 1 drug officer, which I think would be very challenging for that one individual who's taxed with that, but then also would be damaging potentially to the community. But that's one thing that we'll have to decide at some point. Wisconsin Rapids just added a staff member, and now they have 2 drug officers, which they never had before. They always only had 1. And based on the verbiage we used in our grant, they used to their city council to explain the need for their second drug officer. Many communities our size have 2 drug officers. Some get by with 1. It's a challenge, obviously, but it's something that I'd be happy to discuss more as that time gets closer.
Thank you. Any comments or questions about the crime reports? Well, any comments or questions about anything? I'm not hearing a thing. I have 2 announcements, if you like. There has been discussion in City Hall about a merit program for city employees. A proposal was made to Finance Committee. What is the name of that again?
Finance, Budget, and Personnel.
Finance, Budget, and Personnel. The results of that proposal to Finance, Budget, and Personnel was not as we might have hoped. So at our next meeting, Jennifer, the HR person for the city, will make a presentation to share with us what happened at that meeting and what our options are to move forward with a merit plan if we choose. Second announcement is for the commission and for the 2 chiefs. You'll get an email. If you didn't already, you'll get an email today that it's annual performance evaluation time. And I'll be in touch with each member of the commission about that process in the next week or so. But it's coming up, and just so everyone is aware, we're in that mode at this point in time. Are there any other questions or comments, Mike?
Doing something to mull over the next month in anticipation of that presentation by the city. Would it necessarily affect our whole department or just the people in the representative, not the representative, but the people in the upper ranks, or does it affect everybody?
The proposal that was made to the city committee was for, of course, they're non-represented, basically. It did not include the administrative staff in the city. It was for employees at a lower level. And that would, I think, be the intention here, but we need to discuss that, and we need to hear what Jennifer has to say. I've got some strong feelings about that, and I suspect others on the commission may as well. So I'm sort of looking forward to the opportunity to talk about it and see what we might or might not do. Any other business to bring before the assembly? Hearing none, I'll say that we are adjourned, and thank you very much.